Hey guys, it's Kasera, and today I'm going to be doing my November TBR. So I'm so excited for the month of November because there are tons of new releases that I'm super excited for, and I'm also going to be trying to finish up kind of like all of the books that I really wanted to read this year. So I have quite a few books planned for November. If you've been watching my videos for a while, then you know that I have goals of reading one classic, one sci-fi, one historical fiction, one mystery or thriller novel, and one book over 700 pages every month. So we're gonna start with those. For my classic, I'm planning on reading The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time. I've heard that it's like the ultimate revenge story, and that just sounds amazing to me. I've gotten a little bit better about reading like huge non-fantasy books, so like I'm excited to see how this goes. I have a feeling that I could end up either really loving it or really not liking it, but I'm really hoping that it's gonna be one of my favorites. So definitely really excited for this. For my sci-fi book, I plan on reading To Like Lightning by Ada Palmer. I've heard really good things about this book, and it's a hard sci-fi, and I've been getting a lot more into these. So I'm pretty excited for this because I'm excited for some good world building, which I've heard this book has a lot of. So definitely super excited for this. For my historical fiction, I plan on reading World Without End by Ken Follett. So last month I read The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, which I absolutely loved it so much. And it's just like a straight up historical fiction set in 12th century England about building a church, and like I don't know what he did, but it was amazing. And World Without End is the sequel to Pillars of the Earth, which is like 200 years after the first book and is following the ancestors of the characters in the first book. Pillars of the Earth was like an instant favorite of mine, so I'm definitely super excited for this. For my book over 700 pages, I'm planning on reading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third book in the Stormlight Archives, which I'm so excited for. You guys have no idea. I'm super excited to continue on with this, and I'm definitely excited for this series in general to continue on because I want to read all of them. Just all of them. Now we're going to move on to the new releases that I'm planning to read in the month of November. And there are a lot of them. I'm so excited. So the first one that I'm planning to read in November is The Toll by Neal Shusterman. So The Toll is the third book in the Arc of Scythe trilogy, which I read for the first time this year. I unwrapped Scythe like early on this year, and I am so happy that I ended up keeping that book because it is so good. I really loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. More recently, I read Thunderhead, which is the second book in that series, and just so good. The ending of Thunderhead is amazing. If you guys haven't read the series, I highly recommend it. It's about a world that has progressed beyond death, basically. They have so many algorithms that basically everyone in the world is being organized by this artificial intelligence, and there are these people who deal out death, and they're called scythes. Because no one can actually die, the scythes are basically the population control, and it's just super well done, and I really enjoy it. So the next new release that I'm super excited to read in the month of November is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So Erin Morgenstern is a writer that I have a lot of respect for because I read The Night Circus by her, which was her debut novel, and it is so brilliantly written. I love the writing in that book. Like nothing else about that book necessarily appeals to me. Like there aren't any really tropes or anything in that book that I would particularly like, but the writing is so beautiful and the book is so well imagined. I just love it so much, and I'm so excited to read another book by this author because it's just such a good writer, and The Starless Sea is coming out on November 5th, and I'm super excited for it. The next new release that I'm super excited for is Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is probably the one I'm the most excited for, which is weird because like if you asked me this time last year if I would be interested in Queen of Nothing, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Of course not. I picked up The Cool Prince in March, like for the BookTube SFF Award read-alongs. Like I hadn't planned to like it. I just read it because I was like, oh, it's part of the read-along. Sure, I'll read it, fine. I'll probably hate it. It's okay. And then, oh my gosh, I loved it so much. Like I was about an hour into the audiobook when I was just like, I need a physical book, and I went to the store and bought a physical book and finished it that night because I loved it so much. I love the way Holly Black writes her plots. Like, the plot is just so well built. I love that about it. I love how dark it gets without going too far. I love the main character, Jude. She is just so hardcore about some things and intense, and I love it. So definitely super, super excited for Queen of Nothing. Like, I may, if I have time before Queen of Nothing comes out, I may reread The Cruel Prince of the Wicked King. Just throwing that out there, but I'm super excited for Queen of Nothing. And the last new release in November that I'm super excited for is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the sequel to Skyward, which came out last year, and I read also for the BookTube Best of Award read-alongs, and it was so good. It was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I didn't really know what to feel about it going into because I love Brandon Sanderson, obviously. I love his adult high fantasy, but I don't know how I feel about his YA that much. But I loved the first book. Like, I love the world building, first of all. I loved the ambition that the main character has, and I like the details and how, like, technical it got. I think it was a very well written sci-fi book, so I'm definitely excited for the next book in that series as well. And now we're gonna continue on with all of the rest of the books that I'm gonna try and get to in the month of November, and there are quite a lot of them. So the first one that I'm planning on reading is Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the fourth book, sort of, in the Witcher series. I'm kind of excited for it. The third book in the series, Blood of Elves, was not what I was expecting it to be. It definitely felt like a new beginning to a new series, and I rarely like first books in series, but we'll see how this goes. Like, this cover gets me excited for it, so I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be some action in this one, and I definitely want to continue on with this series. The next book that I'm planning on picking up is Deadhouse Gates by Steven Erikson. This is the second book in the Maas and Book of the Fallen series. I waited a little while since I finished the first book, which was Gardens of the Moon, before picking up Deadhouse Gates. This is one of those series that I feel like it's just better to read slowly just because there's so much involved in this, and it's such a big world and there's so many characters. And from what I understand, this book is set in a different place in the world following different characters, but I've heard it's really good. Like, I've heard this is the one that you really get hooked on the series with, so I'm super excited for, because I feel like this could be a favorite of mine, and I cannot wait. The next book that I'm planning on picking up in the month of November is The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second, like, standalone novel in his first law world, and I'm definitely really excited for it. From what I understand, this book takes place all in one battle, which is a really interesting concept to, like, get like a 500-page book covering just one battle, and I really want to see how he does it, because I have a feeling it could be really, really good, or I could end up hating it. But as far as Joe Abercrombie goes, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna end up loving it. So I'm definitely excited for it. So the next book that I'm planning on picking up in the month of November is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the Throne of Glass series. This is another one of those books where I was just like, if you asked me last year if I'd be reading this book in November, I would have been like, you're crazy. But I have the book now, and I decided to pick it up because I read Crown of Midnight because it won my poll to give a series a second chance. I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to. I didn't love it. It's not going to be one of my favorite books of all time, but I've heard the third book in the series is really, really good. I've heard this one is really good. So I feel like since I enjoyed that one a lot more than I was expecting to, and the third one is where everyone seems to think the series gets really good, I should at least give the third book a chance. So I'm giving the third book a chance as well, and I'm going to be reading Heir of Fire, and I'm actually kind of excited about it. The next book that I'm planning on picking up in the month of November is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Obviously, this is the sequel to Six of Crows, which Six of Crows won my poll earlier than this year, so I ended up reading Six of Crows. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting to, and I'm really excited to continue on with these characters because I feel like the second book is going to have some really good character development and hopefully a lot more action than the first book did, because the first book was just like all character development, and I'm hoping the second book has more action, and I think it does because everyone seems to really love this one, so I'm definitely excited for this one as well. The next book that I'm planning on picking up in the month of November is Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laine. This is the third book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. I've picked up the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy this year, and I just have to read this one before I'm done with it. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy the second book in the series as much as I was hoping to, but I'm hoping to enjoy the third book. I love Laini Taylor's writing style, and I'm definitely excited to get more of her like lyrical writing, so hopefully I'll end up liking this one more than I'm expecting to. And the last last book that I'm planning to read in the month of November is Obsidio by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. This is the third book in the Illuminae Files trilogy, and I'm definitely excited to get to it. I've liked this series a lot more than I was expecting to. Like, I didn't expect to like the series as much as I ended up liking it. So I'm definitely excited to continue on with it and finish the series. Before we go, we should talk about my polls. So the book that won the October poll, which is reading more new releases. So I put 5 other new releases that are coming out in November on that poll for you guys to choose which one I will be reading in November. And you guys picked The Fate of the Fallen by Kade. Great choice, guys. I was so excited for this one. This one was like, I was trying to keep it on the DL like in the last video because I didn't want you guys to vote for it just because you thought I would want it. But then you guys voted for it anyway, which makes me really happy. And I'm super excited for this one. I really don't know anything about this book other than it's the first novel in a new high fantasy series, which I'm super excited for. One thing I did realize that I didn't expect was I always thought Kade was a guy. Like, I don't know why. Definitely not a guy. So yeah, that actually makes me more excited for this book than before. So yeah, definitely really excited for this, and hopefully I'll end up loving it. Now it's time for a new poll for the book that I'm gonna be reading in December. So I'm actually gonna give you guys a series, and I'll read one of the books in the series, whether it's the first book or the second book, whatever. And if I'm enjoying it, I might continue on with further books in the series. So in the month of December, I'm planning on dedicating the entire month to rereading, just because December is always the craziest month for me. And while I love December, there's just so much going on that I like can't keep my mind on like everything. So I just like having a comfort zone, and rereading is my comfort zone, especially rereading fantasy. So I'm gonna be reading a ton of fantasy books in the month of December. So my poll is gonna be nostalgic rereads. So I'm gonna give you guys 5 series that I started reading before I turned 18. So like as a young adult or a child, I read these books and I really enjoyed them back then, and they're books that have really stuck with me in a way that other books haven't. And you guys can choose which ones I'll end up reading. So the first series on this poll is The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini, which Eragon is the first book in the series, so I'll definitely be reading Eragon, and if I'm feeling it, if I'm just in the mood for it, I'll continue on for the rest of the series as well. This is a series that really got me into high fantasy, because before this, I would read pretty much anything. I read a lot of contemporary. I did read fantasy, but I read more like paranormal fantasy, and then I read this series and I was like, high fantasy is where it's at. I love high fantasy, because this series is about a boy who finds a dragon egg and becomes a dragon rider in a time where there's really not that many dragons around. And I loved it. I loved everything about it, except for the last book. I didn't actually like the last book. I honestly don't even remember if I finished the last book, but I did love the first 3 books a lot, and I haven't reread it since then. So it's been a good while since I've read this series, and I would definitely be excited to reread it. The next book that I'm putting on this list is The Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. So I picked up this book, I think like in my senior year of high school, like when it first came out-ish, and I loved it. I picked it up before all of the hype because Suzanne Collins was already one of my favorite authors because she wrote The Underland Chronicles, which is one of my favorite series of all times. I actually like it a lot more than the Hunger Games trilogy, but The Hunger Games holds like a special place in my heart. And while Mockingjay is not what I wanted it to be, I still really love this series. I would definitely be happy to reread this one as well. The next series on this list is Twilight Saga. I don't know if I want to reread this one, but I picked up this book when I was 12 years old, so like, don't judge me too hard for this one. And I really enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorite series of all times. I didn't like how it ended. I didn't like a lot of things about this series, but it is one of those series that's kind of like a guilty pleasure read. Like, it's a fun series to read, even if it's not particularly necessarily a good series to read, if you know what I mean. And it's definitely one that could definitely fit into my comfort zone. So if you guys really want me to, you can vote for me to read the series, and I'll read it and vlog it for you guys, so you guys can hear all of the Twilight shade that I have in the month of December. The next series that I'm going to be putting on this list is The Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I loved these series as a child. I really, really loved this series as a child. I don't think I ever finished it. Like, I only have the first 10 books in the series. I never read 12 or 13, but I recently watched the Netflix adaptation and I really, really love the Netflix adaptation. So I've been meaning to do like a reread of the series. So I would definitely be excited to reread the series if you guys wanted me to choose this one. And the last series that I'm going to be putting on this list is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. So this is probably the first series out of all of them that I read. I borrowed it all from the library. I never ended up buying these series except for like when I was older and I bought The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I really enjoyed the series as a child. I did start getting annoyed with it towards the end, but as a child, I loved the series. And it's like one of those like classic multiple worlds tropes. Like, it's been such a long time since I read the series, and I never reread the series either. So I'd definitely be interested in rereading it. And it's like, it's just one of those tropes that I love. It's like one of my favorite tropes in fantasy in general. And this is just like a classic version of it that I do want to revisit at some point. So I'd definitely be happy to do so in the month of December as well if you guys vote for it in the poll. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you've read any of these books, let me know down in the comments. I would love to discuss it with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos frequently in this channel, so consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.